do you have any advice for balancing rest and productivity for neurodivergent people? And I can answer that. I would like to preface that I'm talking from my own perspective as an autistic person, because neurodivergent is a very wide label. Some of the traits of autism can make both emotional regulation and sort of management of life a little bit more difficult than most. It's particularly related to this idea called executive functioning, which is, this is the managing your life side of it. Executive functioning is basically your ability to manage your thoughts or manage different aspects of your life. It can be quite difficult for autistic people, and I think that's one of the reasons why we can often gravitate towards routine. It kind of provides a sense of certainty, and also if you're in the flow of things, if you're in the habit of things, you don't have to think too much about managing your day if you just do the same thing every week or every day or whatever. So there's that aspect of it, which is important, because, you know, although sometimes, you know, the things that you are doing are deemed to be in the productivity category, it's not to say that they, I guess, take away from your energy as much. Sometimes actually doing productive things, if you are interested in it or it benefits you in some way, can be a good thing to do. For example, me streaming, I guess you could classify it as productivity. You know, we're talking about autism, we're having chats with, I'm doing a live stream. You could classify that as productivity, I guess, but generally when I do streams, I tend to feel very positively, you know, so it kind of helps me in a way, even though I'm doing something productive, because it's like the thing that I do is it's a routine, or at least I try to make it a routine, so I feel good. So it's important to recognize that, because to some people, resting can look very different to other people's resting. One person's resting might be staying in bed all day on their phone. Another person's resting might be playing video games. Another person's resting might be writing in a cafe, you know. Classifying the things that generally make you feel good and happy and certain, and, you know, don't drain your energy supplies, classify that as the rest. I think just covering that first is important, because it may look different to like how most people would rest, I guess. The problem with like balancing rest and productivity, number one problem is that if you are very high in conscientiousness, meaning you like to work very hard and you have very high expectations for yourself, even if you set a schedule for working versus resting that works for you, if you find yourself in doing that for a while, you may have the temptation to increase your productivity over time because you feel like you can handle it. This is something that I talked to, I can't remember their name. It was a podcast that I did. We were talking about burnout in that, and they were talking about these different zones. So like you have a zone for your capacity, which is basically how much work you are physically able to do, and then there was another zone which was, there's capacity and capability. So you can go up to your capacity, but staying in like a zone of capability is the most ideal. And that can be very different depending on the person, and it can also shift depending on your own mental state. I think for a lot of us autis, we can often go very, very hard when we are working and expend a lot of brain energy a lot quicker. So sometimes the ideal amount of rest for us might be a lot larger than most people's, you know, not even factoring in the potential sensory and social stuff that might drain us a lot quicker as well. You know, you're working in a busy work environment, you're working in a place where people like to have lots of chats and socializing and network meetings and stuff like that. So you got to take that into account, that it might be lower, and just generally trying to find what you are capable of doing every week, I guess is a good way to go about it first. And then there's the complex part, which is recognizing when you need to rest more. That's the thing that I can't really help with too much, because it depends on what is happening in your life. It depends on how you're feeling. If my mental health is absolutely great, I'm a machine. I can wake up at like 9 a.m, get straight to work, feel great, you know, work all up until 5 p.m, go to the gym, work out for a couple of hours, come home, do a stream, maybe doing some writing before I go to bed. But that's me in like a very, very good day. And I'd say that's probably my capacity. Most of the time, I simply won't be able to handle that every day. It won't be good for me to do that. If I'm struggling, perhaps I have some things going on in my life that are causing me emotional stress. Could be work, could be relationships. Obviously, that's going to have an impact on how much I need to rest. And the problem with doing this sort of on the go, sort of adjusting things, is that as autistic people, we can often be alexithymic. So we can struggle to really monitor our own sort of mental state, like emotional state, which can make it very, very difficult to make those on-the-fly adjustments to what we're doing in the day or what we're doing in the week. And that's a whole other conversation on its own. I'd really recommend checking out my video on alexithymia, because, you know, there's general things that you can do which you can implement as resting, and you can get everything planned out. And most of the time, most of your life, you'll be able to do that fine. But you go through a bad period, mental health wise, emotional wise, life experience wise, things are going to change. And it's not always, you know, as much as I talk about it, it's not always that I can really catch it myself, to be honest. Sometimes I can go for a week and feel, oh my God, that, you know, things are a little bit too hard at the moment. Why? And then I think about things that have happened during the week or during the month, and I'm like, oh, that's probably why. So as much as I can say it, it's quite hard to do. It takes time. You know, maybe it'd be an ideal situation to set yourself like a schedule for rest and work, which you can do most of the time, and then just have some check-ins with yourself about how you're doing, maybe at the end of every week or so. See what's going on, keep track of the potential things that could be stressing you out or causing you some kind of negative emotion. Even though I can't tell that anything's different, the things are happening which should impact me emotionally and energy wise. And so perhaps next week I'm going to do my low workload week where I have more rest. Maybe that's a good way of going about it.